Okay. All right. So I'm Dr. David Lamson, and I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, Carolina Lorenzo, who I've known for a long time. And she is just a force of nature, someone who radiates joy and has really been on a path of healing and a path on helping support and help create transformation in other people's healing. And it just brings to the table a real authenticity and joy of life, and real kind of coming back to the body and noticing what's going on in the body. And you went to school in Boulder and kind of around the world, really, in terms of learning from different teachers. And so I wanted to bring you on to really have a discussion about connection with self, connection with others. And this project really started with being a little bit dissatisfied with the amount of fear going on in the media, and how, even myself, it was so easy to kind of fall into that or reactionary space of I'm right, you're wrong. Like, even amongst friends, family, lovers, like this is such a divisive time. So I really wanted to bring your insight on in terms of talking about how do we relate to ourselves? How do we relate to others in a time of heightened conflict? How do we see, kind of the divine essence of everyone out there, including ourselves? And so I'm really excited to have you on and kind of have an amazing conversation and share your insights.
Thank you so much. It's such a tremendous honor. Yes, what a time we're in. What a time we're in. And as we were sharing before, it's a fertile ground to do exactly what you're doing right now, which is to birth, to create in the space and the void of what we're not seeing happening, and what's missing, because there's so much missing. We started this conversation, this moment out with a little bit of chanting, which I do as a practice to bring myself into coherence. And I really see, and we were talking about you as a child, and it was kind of perfect, because what I've seen throughout my path, and I feel like we're working with a mass collective trauma right now, from lifetimes, from other lifetimes, but also our history on the planet. It has been a war-torn, we have been a divisive people, and we have a new, we are in this age of Aquarius. Being birthed is very real. It's very, very real. And it's I have 3 planets in Aquarius. I bring a lot of that new possibility. And so first, I want to invite us to get present, to really actually come into our bodies, as I really see that as one of the greatest ways. So I invite you to fully arrive here and to close your eyes and drop in. Is this okay? We'll just
No, I think
drop in.
great. I think this is a great way to start things
Okay.
off.
Okay. And see the center channel of your body. See the center channel of your spine, and really send your roots down. One of the things that fear does is it makes us want to pull our roots out, and we get more in our heads and we get spun out. So right now, we're going to send our roots down and really take up space. See those roots going wide. My roots are holding on to your roots, David's roots. All of our roots are connected, like the trees teach us that we're part of, that we're not in separation from. And roll your shoulders back, love, and then breathe into your heart. And call yourself even more here. And the power of using our voice I think we are just stepping into this technology. It is a technology. And so open your mouth and make a sound and let your heart know you are here. You can just any sound, and then move your body a bit. and shake your hands out. Shake your hands out. Shake your body out. Ha, and make some sounds. Ha. Ah, good. And then open your arms and just really open your wings up and side to side and really take up space. Cleaning anyone else's energy out of your space, right? And then tap your heart. Ah. Ah. Then bring your hand to your heart. And I want you to first notice what's going on in your head. Just notice, right? We're in our heads a lot. We're in our heads a lot. It's a safe refuge that we take from the pain in the body. But for a moment here, loves, let us drop down into our hearts and just feel the emotions, right? Because that's what the body, that's what the heart is the home circuit board that links everything up, that syncs us up. We breathe in and out of this space. And we might feel some emotions that we haven't been feeling. And even right now, usually emotions, there's a lot of them that go on at once. And they are not who we are. They're messengers. They come in and they come out. They give us information about maybe something that needs to happen. But for a moment here, while we're all in this together on this call, let us feel the part of us that's witnessing all of it, noticing maybe a little bit of anxiety. It's pretty normal and low grade. We use these words, it's anxiety, depression. These are human experiences. Every single one of us will taste this throughout our lifetimes. Depending on your trauma history, maybe a bit more than others, depending on your sensitivities. But it is your superpower as well when we learn to regulate ourselves. And so when we open the heart, with your hand on your heart, you probably noticed that your heart softened and maybe your breath deepened. And so saying something kind to yourself on the inside, like, hello, good morning, I'm right here. It's a new day. This allows the youngest part of us, which I really see as inside of our heart, the inner child, the spirit, this allows our nervous system to really come home into wholeness, into presence. When we become the witness and the loving agent for that younger part to be here. So bring your hand to your belly. This is your power center. And breathe all the way down into your belly and just really feel your power. You are in your power. And from this place, we'll open our eyes. It's nice to practice also holding yourself while your eyes open and you take in maybe me or David. But stay really with one eye in, holding yourself. We never have to abandon ourselves. The more I notice physical sensations in my bodies, especially these days around triggered people, that's when I really let this part of me inside of me know I've still got you, babes. And I talk to myself like that. I talk to myself. I have a really sweet way of talking to myself. And that way my heart knows that I am home. I have goosebumps. But that I'm not going to abandon myself, that I'm not going to, as an empath, take on the energies of the world. And so as we really come into the awareness that we are in this collective trauma, it's important to know what we're dealing with and what trauma looks like. So I'll shift into that now. But as I'm sharing, I invite you to stay in your body, to stay in your heart. And I'm going to hold that resonance. And so in our presence, we can entrain others. So my intention is that my presence, my heart presence, entrains your heart to be here with me as well. And we can still talk about neuroscience and, these concepts, but we can be in an integrated space where they allow, where we can receive them in a healing way. So I just want to check in with you, David, Dr. David. And I'm Carolina Grace. A few years ago, I really activated my middle name as Grace. I had been a seeker throughout my whole life, looking for things outside of me. And I saw that what I was seeking was right at the center of me. So I use that word, Carolina Grace, as my true middle name to remember the teaching of grace.
I love it. Thank you for leading that. What have been some of the challenges that you faced in this time period where I think we've all had to kind of push ourselves out of our uncomfort zones? What are some of the things that you've been kind of working on in terms of your kind of being more present in the moment? I notice when I'm sometimes speaking, sometimes it's like, it's so easy to get in my mind.
Yeah.
I love that reminder to just take that deep breath and really check in here, because and not have any agenda, just what am I moved to say. And it's such a deeper and more difficult path, like for me at least,
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah. Oh,
learning
yeah.
to speak like that and from the heart instead of from the mind with this agenda. It's the deepest journey, I think.
It is the deepest, and we can, we still can have an agenda, and we let the moment inform what's kind of the next piece of the agenda, I think, But thank you for that. It is the ninja. I like to call it the spiritual ninja path. And I want to be a ninja. So I love that question. This time is, there's been so much personally and in every way, literally in every way, I feel transformed. I'm still getting to know myself because so much has shifted. But I really wanted to back up to what trauma is, if I may. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Yeah. And while we're in this sweet space as well, so trauma is separation, and the invitation here to be to speak on connections and to speak on rewiring our collective nervous system it's important to speak about what the separation is that occurs, right? Because we are really simply, trauma is anything that happens that is too much, too soon. It's out. So for a child, it's out of what they understand. They can't make sense of it. They don't have a lexicon for it. It's but in terms of what's just happened on the planet, right? Which is it's going to be living in our nervous systems for a long time, and as we integrate it. And what it is it's basically a place where the brain, as we're moving through this resonance space, it kind of goes like this, and there's the hippocampus is the part of the brain that timestamps things, and it goes, okay, this is happening now, this is happening now, this is happening now. And anytime anything comes in with a flood, any stressor comes in, like, holy wow, the hippocampus with that flash of stress hormones. Let's keep breathing. the hippocampus goes offline. And so the tape of the moment experience goes through without having the time signature of when it happened. And we lose access to our breath, but we're not right now. And so what happens when we're wanting to reintegrate anything that happened that created a moment, a fragmented moment, is we're wanting to bring ourselves back into wholeness. And how it looks, right? How it looks is that the psyche, I mean, I want to just honor that the more life qualifies each one of us to be an expert in our own little way of the material that we are moved to work with in our lifetimes. So though I have my degrees, I have to say my own experience of healing myself, it seems to qualify my investigation in a really deep way. So all of us, as we come through this, we will all also be learning to become an expert for our own healing, and we can share that with each other. So we don't have to have a big degree in this. There's a lot of beautiful information out there, and I think we're just getting started in studying a lot of these different pieces. I'm going to take a little breath. So when the hippocampus goes offline, and we stop breathing, we, as a child, especially because that I think we can all relate to, we all know that experience. Like if someone is acting in a certain way that, and their love is conditional, right? If they're like, you're a good boy, oh bad boy, right? And there's, and that is an old our paradigm of love. It's not, it's control. And but it is an old paradigm that parents were taught, right? That conditional, and yet it's important to steer behavior, and so there's a lot there, right? But the child learns, especially if it's done in a very punitive way, if it's done in a traumatic way as well, child learns to separate themselves and to become, they start to put together what it is that is good, what it is that will get the reward. And the whole soul, the true self, it kind of gets fragmented. And David yesterday and I were talking about the shadow, right? And working with the shadow, is that oftentimes anytime that there's a separation, right? There's a fragmented part. This is where we're also working with kind of what got lost and also what got pushed back. And I believe that there is a presence, there's a life force that is wanting to heal us, is wanting to bring us back into wholeness. And so sometimes we will call in relationships, experiences that will activate our traumatic material so that we can come back into wholeness. So there's so much to say here, so I'm just gonna share that was just a little piece of the separation that trauma is, and how when we're working with reintegrating trauma, we're working with the building blocks is slowing down, is coming into our bodies, because this is where we can heal it and feel it. We're working with emotions, and we're working with the heart. Is like, this is the ninja work, is when we can have compassion for both our experience in the moment and another's. When we can see that they're in their head and they're moving fast and they're in fear and they're in reaction, they're not in their right mind. They're not in their they're not in their grounded adult self. They might be there, might be in a fragmented child part, or they also just might be in the nervous system's fight or flight response, however that looks like to each person. And I want to share that because we're seeing a lot of that right now. Inner child acting out. We're seeing a lot of adults not acting like adults. And we can meet that with our own unintegrated stuff because we are triggered too. Or, and this is where we are invited to take more care of ourselves than ever. My self-care right now looks indulgent to the outside eye. To me, it is like I have come home, but it is a lot. So thank you for hearing me. I hope that was helpful.
That was great. I mean, I love the idea of, in talking. I mean, this morning when I was hanging out with Heath, he started like screaming in my ear, and it's like, how do I have patience for him and not take it personally, and like not not chastise him, but say, wow, instead of that's bad, or go to your room or whatever. It's like that does not feel good to my ears. That actually hurts, Daddy. And
Yes.
like, how can I own it, of like what's going on for me, instead of like projecting it onto him. And it's so true. Like when we're dealing with friends, lovers, community that are triggered, or we get triggered, it's the same thing. It's like, how can we not take it personally? How can we not get into that fragmented state and realize the divineness of the person that's in front of us?
I love that. Yeah, seeing the divine. And children right now, I got to say, they are doing a lot of the work that we're not doing, because children are sponges for the energy of any emotional energy of anything that's not processed in the adults. Children are, and they're very embodied. So if your kid is moving more or yelling more or whatever, they're moving the collective fear and anger through their bodies. And it's very important. I mean, I'm a highly sensitive being in every way. Loud. I mean, I know this is, we all have our different place. I'm so sensitive through sound, but I'm also incredibly intelligent through my ears. I hear a song once, I know the words. It's strange, but it's my, we all have our different brains. But so when I'm working with a child like that, I might, because I've worked a lot with children, that's a big part of my past, is this also important, fierce compassion does not look like being a doormat. Mm. Fierce compassion is also, ouch, is also like, baby, or whatever. It's like, it's okay to use the sword of truth while also holding that there's a human there that has a gentle nervous system, and maybe redirecting, with like the intelligence of their body, right? Because there's an intelligence there. And there's a need there. Our children are needing they're needing our attention, both our inner children. When we have a screaming inside, it is the child inside of us needing us. And, the hand, it's okay. It's okay. When we are dysregulated, it's okay. Come here. And so, there's both, ouch, that's too much for me. And there's also like, hey, come here, sweetie. And you can also soothe their nervous system as you're telling them, listen, mommy's hearing is very sensitive. And that really, let's find a place for you to yell, and let's go to the mountains, or I don't know. But it's also, it's kind of keeping that one in, and we don't have to do it right all the time. It's what I love about attachment theory. which is also what we're doing in relationship. We're never done. We're never fully cooked. We are reparenting each other on the street, in relationship. We are each one of us has several fathers and mothers, and we are getting that from a lot of different channels. But what we are working with in
Could you just define attachment theory a little bit? I think it's such a great
yes.
theory, and it has so much relevance that I'd love you just to kind of define the different kind of forms of attachment that we develop that even in adulthood has a big impact on us.
Sure. It's a whole big thing. It is, and it is so much at the root of so much of what we see. Depending on your early childhood imprinting, the attachment schema gets created, which is basically any kind of schema is a template that until we consciously work on it, we overlay into situations, right? And bless our sweethearts, when we come into this world, we are the most undercooked of any species out there. Okay, we come in a full trimester undercooked. We would do well to have a marsupial papoose to come climb in and just hang out for a whole nother, So we're uncooked, and our moms are usually too stressed because they have to be working so fast to hold us in the way that we need for our brains to develop in the highest way that would reduce learning challenges and increase our trust and faith in our own self concept, and that others got our back. So with many of us, it doesn't happen. It doesn't fully get cooked well. And that's, I'm using some of the terminology. Some people tell me like I speak Carolina, so I'm always happy to speak with you more about any of these concepts. But one thing I will share that's so interesting is that as we are held, as mommy has herself, this isn't an ideal situation. Mommy has herself, so she's got herself, and then she's got the baby. So the baby just gets to rest, and mommy's got her. So the baby gets to continue to cook inside that sweet little brain. And what is happening is the myelin sheath are getting created, lots of things, of course. So the brain, the hormones, the heart is in resonance to the mom's system. So depending on the mom's level of stress hormones, the child's going to internalize that. Depending on, this has been a lot of what I've been working with throughout my lifetime as well, is healing, intergenerational as well. This gets passed on. This is or epigenetic. This is, we pass this on. But also, when the baby's held and in that way where mom's got mom, is the myelin sheath get created that coat the neural fibers. And this is like, I like to imagine it like a hug. Mm-hmm. And when that doesn't happen right, the hug around the neural fiber, this is why we have such a massive amount of ADD, is that the neuron doesn't, have that smooth signal, one synapse to the next. And so it can, and that's why, stimulant medication it does really help, is that, but what we lose is there's a lot there. So anyway, that's a little background. So lots of things happen in our first early schema around our relationship with other. Okay, so if mommy doesn't have herself, mommy does not have herself, depending on the child, right? This is an early childhood trauma that where the child has a few different choices. And this is where we see narcissism or codependence. And oftentimes they live in both of us, or both of them can live. This is where the child's strategy is, I'm not going to need anyone, and I'm going to come out and I'm just going to be about me. Or I'm gonna take care of mommy to survive. I'm gonna take care of mommy, and then I'm gonna always check in with others. My sense of self is based on other. So this way we might see enmeshment in relationship. We might see just, diffuse, like not having boundaries. And that feels like a very important conversation that is on the stage today. We all know who we're seeing, who has this, something must have happened to create that narcissism of self. Um, okay, so in in attachment, um, and we are constantly repairing this. I love that. Because if you are like me, that was a big part of my healing journey, was learning to heal that. And and if mom and dad came sometime to feed you, and then sometimes you cried and cried and cried and cried and cried, and they didn't come for you, right? You would, and that sometimes can be, you might have ambivalent attachment. You might have an insecure attachment. There are lots of different terms. And I'm just going to name a couple, a really great book, Attached, the neurobiology. Gosh, this is good for me to kind of review. I went through grad school 7 years ago where I really deeply worked with this stuff. Anyway, I can't think of them right now, but it's a good place to start. But you might just have low grade, not trusting that somebody's going to come. A lack of trust in others. But one piece I didn't speak to, which of course in any attachment trauma, there is still that trauma wound. And what the trauma that I like to say, the party favor, just to lighten it up a little bit, the party favor that trauma leaves behind is shame. That something was wrong with me, the mommy didn't come sometimes, or, and it's really, this is very important, because if you have a lot of trauma, the higher the shame, the higher the trauma. And so you really, and the breeding ground for any addiction is shame. And addiction, this is also very important for what's happening right now. It can look like work. It's any way, and nothing's wrong with addiction. When I see addiction, sometimes I'm like, of course, addiction. And that can look like eating issues. It can look like any excessive controlling another person, overworking, of course, any substance, but, it can be, sex addiction, love addiction. I mean, we can become addicted to anything. But it's an avoidance. It's an avoidance strategy, and it's okay, and it works until it doesn't. And then when the person's ready to wake up from that, they work on that. But
so what do you see, the avoidance of not being able to deal with that emotion related to that thing, or not being able to deal with the emotion of, like,
give me 1 sec.
interaction of the dynamic between the two people, or what's kind of the underlying avoidance? Is it that, so, like, we have these imprints from childhood that then we're insecure about our safety with our mom, and then that imprints to, like, a codependency? Do you see it underlying as, like, our inability to, like, be present with what's going on in our body at that moment?
Yeah. I have so much compassion for this. And when we heal this, it's like a whole new world that we didn't even know we could be a part of. So I just want to be an anchor on the shore. If you're going through this, which I think many people are, yes, it's incredibly painful our triggers, right? Triggers, it feels, with fight or flight, we feel like we're going to die. Okay. And when we can, and this simple practice we did here in the beginning, in and out through the nose. I'm reading the book Breath right now. And actually nose breathing is more regulatory for the system. And I like to add sound, because when we open our voices with a song from or sound from our heart, we literally can soothe so fast. It can do work really fast, and it can make the inner child, especially if it's a song, the inner child come home to us, the fragmented part. Anyway, but no, it's a feeling like it's the fight or flight feeling, like it's a doorway we can't go through. We must avoid that. So we need to do something else. So it's just a massive panic that this doorway of what happened in the past, that if we're going back through that, will be our annihilation. And for anybody who has walked through those doors, for me, I'll just share one thing. I used to have, like, I used to feel like I was inside of a straitjacket of anxiety and fear. I was so afraid. I had a lot of things happen, a lot of violations happen, but I had this pulse of life inside of me that wanted for me to sing, and this straitjacket was like, no way, absolutely no way. Way too vulnerable to bring what's inside of me out there. They could judge me. They could, right, all the things. And this is all of us, right? Just being seen, and that pulse of life, it kept going. And I finally, one day, I auditioned or I practiced for 2 months. And then I finally, one day, this pulse of life encouraged me to walk in my anxiety suit into an audition. And I sang. And I was having such bad, my lip was shaking, my knees. I felt like I was going to die. So it was like right in the middle of that, right? And I actually turned, I sang the other way, and I sang the other way, and I turned, because halfway through the song, the elixir of my spirit filled me. And I had a whole different experience. I turned around towards them, finished my song, and they gave me and I ran out of that room. So they were so loving, and I had a healing experience. I ran out of that space. I ran back to my dorm room in college with sheets of tears coming down my cheeks. And I felt more energy than I'd ever felt, like an aliveness. It felt like an ecstasy. And I would never be the same person again, because I had walked through what told me I was going to die, and actually having a different experience. So as a teacher, as a performer, as a I lead collective chant. I'm always telling people the power of our listening. When we are listening to each other, we have the ability to have a healing experience, to bring the soul forward out of that place of fragmentation where they weren't seen in the past, where it was unsafe for them to be themselves in the past. In this moment, you could invite them a little more forward by saying, it's okay, or I'm right here, or awesome, or share with me, or I can't wait to hear, or whatever. So, and what we talk about, to bring it back to attachment, is that's what we call repair. And what's so romantic about this neurocircuitry is that, first of all, for the parents out there, is daddy can misbehave really badly one day, and he can come back and say with a real heart, what happened yesterday when I scared you with my big voice and my, daddy gets scared too sometimes. And, there can be a repair, an honest repair, the humbling of, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't do it perfectly, and I'm right here. Anything you want to talk about? And there are 5 steps to repair that. And this was like all in my thesis, but it's been 7 years. and I don't remember them all right in this moment. But a big important piece of that repair is creating an up-level dialogue where they can, you allow the love in, you allow the other person to ask questions, or, you allow that other person in, and you be open to a new experience as well. And for those of us who have been through these experiences, I think we have them more than we know, where we're actually literally working with the attachment situations, and can happen in like an interview, all the times where we allow ourselves to be seen or we share. But it feels like we're in a presence of time and space kind of shift their reality. It feels, if we feel like a surge of love. So
would an example of that be the father who says, hey, look, even daddy gets scared sometimes, and I'm really sorry that I yelled at you, or whatever it was. I mean, is that example of that repair conversation?
if the child, yes, so the child will know if there's a presence, and there's if you slow the moment down enough, if the child gets to dialogue as well, like, yes, it scared me, dad, right? And it scared you, yeah. So what did you do when you were scared? Or, if there's a conversation, I mean, depending on the age of the child, you know, um, but what the child will know is you become a safer person to them. You become a person that's, that they're going to be able, what healthy attachment looks like, friends, is when a child can say, Daddy, I don't like the way you're talking to me right now. It hurts my feelings, right? I mean, that's like a really strong sense of self for a child, because the old parenting model is top down. You're just because I told you so. But when there's healthy attachment, there's the ability to say, I need, Dad, I need you for a moment. I had a hard day at school, and I I'm and I just need I need something. I don't know what I need. Oftentimes children don't know what they need. And they need us. And they need they need to share. But so, a secure attachment looks like knowing that the world has you, that the world wants to hear you, and that you matter. And it looks like self-talk. A big part of my work throughout my life has been, I have affirmations on my wall. I moved here 3 days ago, and so I've got my affirmations. And what we think is it's this is ninja stuff, right? Because our thoughts are oftentimes programmed from way long ago. They're not even our thoughts. I should dot dot dot. I am. I shouldn't. Oh, all the ways we control our behavior or whatever they're oftentimes not necessarily, they're all up for renegotiation, I think, depending on what you decide works for you, and what your life, what your values are.
And so I love that idea of that at any moment there's an opportunity to repair. How does that conversation look differently with peers, lovers? Like how I mean, it seems like a lot of the same kind of fundamentals, but maybe just in a different package a little bit.
Yeah. Um, so so depending on the reaction that we got as a child when we spoke our truth, right? If there was volatility, if there was anger, or there was parents who didn't take responsibility for themselves, it can be really scary to have a honest conversations. So if that, for those of us, I just want to honor the courage that it takes. And so, and if you're in a relationship like that because you had it before, check on that. And maybe it needs to be brought to your awareness that you should be, or you deserve, I'm going to be blanket with that. You deserve to have your heart held and heard without a retaliation, without, and sometimes in codependent situations, if someone is having an honest dialogue, it might like, you're, yeah, we don't do that. It might disrupt the whole at first, the unhealthy whole, but over time, and maybe, with therapeutic support, it can become where two wholes are speaking. So what it looks like is, hey, honey, I'd love to find some time to chat with you. Let me know when that would be good, right? And so, in relationship, if I'm nervous, right, I'm gonna carry that frequency, and that's gonna be my transmission, is nervousness, right? So, so being in connection, also in touch and eye contact and sweetness. So just like, so hey, yesterday I noticed like something's coming up for me. I want to share about it. And you take full responsibility. It's on your side of the street. So I notice that I'm having this, first of all, just like, I want to create space for us to just honestly share, and I'm so glad that we made this time for us to share, because sometimes we got to make sure we're in the right space. We're in the right space to receive these kinds of honest dialogue, and touch, and shifting out of work mode, which the brain, we've got to shift. So maybe some touch, and some connection time first before just bursting in with a heady kind of situation. But no, like, hey, I think it's really nice to start with modeling. Like, listen, the other day I noticed that I was like going on, and I noticed like that I was missing something in your experience. I felt like I missed connecting with you. I felt like, I was like all in my big emotion. And I feel like I was just, and I want to just, I'm thinking about many times when we miss what's actually happening in someone else's world. And I think we can also start out by modeling before we're asking the other person to attune to us in a place that they're missing. We can also scan for where we're doing that in the other person's world. We can get more curious about them. This is how we build intimacy. Intimacy is intimacy. Is I notice that sometimes I feel like I'm not seen entirely. And I'm not, and I don't feel like there's the space for me to share some of these deeper layers of what I want to be up to that I'm not up to now. I'm just totally making this up, right? But when I look at that, I'm also, if I don't have permission for that in this relationship, then my partner doesn't either. And so, I can create so I feel like I'm kind of shifting towards like more relational stuff. But I think that it's really important to first sit with what it's bringing up for you, whatever's happening in the relationship, what it's bringing up for you personally. Because if your trauma is being activated, if like right now I'm talking about kind of yummy stuff, right? I'm talking about like, going deeper in intimacy. Um, but that creating a safe place for that is also where you get to create a safe space for when stuff happens. Like, babe, whatever happened, what's ever happening in your system right now is scaring me. And so I'm going to take care of myself. And my invitation is that we come back 30 minutes. We just do our practices. Let us come back and like check in, because I super care, but I'm really getting triggered. And so I'm going to go take care of myself. Does that sound like an agreement we can make? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a way for the healthy self to resource itself into a healthy space of separation. Because over time, if we're constantly soothing the other and like doing it all for them, we're becoming the Band-Aid for, they need to learn to also regulate themselves. And sometimes that is it needs to be in separation, and sometimes in togetherness. And both are really important. And what I loved, I studied with the PACT school and Wired for Love is really beautiful book, which talks about attachment in relationship in a really beautiful way. I love it. Because we want to learn how to have these healthy separations and coming backs together. And they speak to creating these healthy rituals is really one of the best ways to create a healthy relationship is, and when you come back together, having a way that you affirm each other. I love the way you did my laundry yesterday. That was so sweet. I was totally in a space where I could not handle the everyday ordinary stuff. And that just really felt like the warmest hug. Oh, right. And that's like knowing your partner's love language. If they're an acts of service person and you're a words of praise, I feel like I'm talking a lot, and
Well,
and I love to talk. So thank you for letting me.
I mean, so often the expectations of, friendships, partnerships, it's like they're unspoken. It's like, you should just know what I need to be loved. And it's never really spoken. And we don't really even know what you need to feel loved. And I think just even having that baseline conversation so that, your friends, your partners know what they need in order to feel that, because so often it's so, oh, I expect that you call me every day in order to feel loved as a friend. And I never told them that, or, whatever it is. It's like, there's so many expectations that aren't even on the table and people don't even know. So we can't even participate and interact. So I love even just having that kind of baseline. What happens when we do get triggered? How can we have an agreement to, what are some strategies or tools we can do to help navigate that? Because in that triggered state, we're not going to be able to have that much latitude.
Yeah. Well, we could end with a little practice, of kind of what to do when you're triggered. Would that be good?
We've got a couple minutes here, 5 minutes.
Okay.
And you can definitely go a little over, but I think that'd be a wonderful thing.
Okay. Because it's all about the body. It's really all about the body. And see, even here, I'm sitting on the bed. My feet aren't touching the ground. And so I'm going to just turn us around, because I really want us to get on our feet. So I invite you to get on your feet with me. Get on your feet.
You're welcome to turn on your camera if you want.
Yeah. Okay, so let's give a scenario. So something's happened. Okay, and everything is a spectrum. Everything is always a spectrum. There's, kind of like, but we all know the somatic cues for being triggered, right? Okay, so it's going to be a short, quick breath. There's going to be a hyper mind that's going to say, I need to do something right now, right? Unsafe, it's like, fight, flight, freeze. We all have our different ones. Freeze is really big right now. So get to know your somatic markers for what it looks like when you're triggered or you're in a trauma state. Okay. So if you're frozen, right, shake. Ah. So stomp your feet down and just let's get into our bodies just a little bit. Ha. Okay, so and just beginning to shake out your body and just shaking out your body. Ha, and make some sounds and let your shoulders bounce on their shoulders up and down. And then shake your head out. And doing anything, just like David just did, doing anything until you kind of find a little bit of a humor. It is funny and it is good. The minute we find humor, we've raised our vibration. Okay. So sometimes I will put on one song to dance. We're not going to do that here. But we can even brush the soles of our feet on the ground, or we can jump. Sometimes I jump into squats when I'm noticing that I'm not grounded because I've gone into my head in fear. But I also just might get really big with my body and really big with my breath. I love the tapping of the heart. Any type of pranayama, we're going to do one here, but any type of pranayama that, so one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. And imagine that this hand was like the kindest mother you know, okay? Or the kindest father, right? We have both of these archetypes within us, mother and the father. But let this hand offer a soothing to your heart. And this hand on your belly, just let yourself come into present time. I like to sometimes acknowledge I am feeling, and I ask my heart, my heart will say, I'm feeling sad, scared, alone, angry, tired, whatever it says. And I say, yes. I validate, because invalidation is really painful for us. And that creates more acting out, and that creates more disassociation. So what we want to do is we want to validate, yes, you are feeling angry, sad, lonely, and tired. And I'm right here. And this is what you're kind of speaking to your heart. And then you could feel that unconditional friendliness. And that oftentimes will just raise your vibration and, lift the sides of your mouth up with a smile. But sometimes if we're really, really triggered, we might need to go for a run. We might need to do a practice. I like one dance song. But sometimes it's like get on your bike and you need to hit the pavement. And you need to move that energy through. So let's just shake for a minute. We're just going to shake. Okay. And just bounce around your space and just shake. And I want you to really get in your hips too, because this is where our emotions get stuck, and our jaw. Keep going. We're going to notice the shift. Shake it out. You can make any sounds. Take up space. Keep going. I'm tracking the time. Keep going. Shake it out. Shake it out. Shake it out. Shake it out. 10. Keep going. 9, 8, 7, 6. Keep going. 5, 4. Yes. 3. Reach your arms up to the sky. 2. And 1. Stop. One hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Close your eyes and notice. So, in dialectical behavior therapy, we talk about anytime you shift your body chemistry. So a hot shower, a cold shower, doing what we just did, right? Exercise. But just notice how we've shaken the snow globe. There's a new possibility here. Whatever was triggering you before, you might just have a little space. We've also picked up our breath. And now, if you are taking space from your partner, you might go do something that you love. You might go get your instrument out, and you might go, journal about it. You might, but go kind of be in reflection. I mean, some people process through songwriting. Some people process through their journal, through a walk. But to kind of be with, the part of you that also like gets hurt and feels afraid in this world, and imagine that the wisest, more adult part of you is also holding hands with that part that is like the big feeling part, and let it integrate. This is your soul speaking. This is an important part that sometimes, especially depending on our past, we put down, we make wrong, and we continue to invalidate that part. So my invitation is really to be kind and to, this is what's going to up-level our world and our relationships, is by learning how to be in this way with ourselves as well. And it's not easy. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you so much, Carolina. That was amazing. And I think that, I don't know if anyone has any questions. If you have a few more minutes here.
Of course.
But you can either type them in, or you can join on camera and unmute yourself. I don't know if I have to do that, but if anyone has any questions, please, you can join us here now. And thank you so much for being here, and for just kind of bringing a new awareness of body, and giving us some tools to kind of tap back in and create shift and transformation. That was awesome.
Yay. Good. Joy and these different emotions also have different vibrations. Joy, when we feel good, God, we feel good, right? So we can also ask ourselves what makes us feel good, when we're in those places. I just want to end with that. But yeah, Jacqueline, Sarah, Cynthia, anyone have any questions? Thanks for tuning in.
I love the that beginning. I wish I'd actually recorded that that instrumental you did in the beginning. That was so awesome. Looks like we have Jacqueline says just thank you, and needed to hear that today. So thank you for that.
Well, I could end with it.
That would be great. I'd love to end with that. That was such a powerful song.
Well, I invite you to practice, to try it on with me. You can mute yourself out if you don't want to be heard, but even just to feel like I shared in the beginning, that the Dalai Lama said that this particular mantra, it creates a field of protection around you from fear, and it raises your immune system inside, and it connects us with unconditional love. I mean, what's not amazing about that? So the words are Om Tare, Tu Tare, Ture Soha. So, so enjoy. And then I've added a little English just that came from my heart that I'll share too. Om Tare, Tu Tare, Ture Soha. Try it. Om Tare, Tu Tare, Ture Soha. Om Tare, Tu Tare, Ture Soha. Om
Thank you, Carolina. That was wonderful.
Thank you so much.